Hello, welcome to Gentle Yoga at noontime. I'm Jeani, your host for the next hour, and we'll be focusing on gentle yoga to help us sort of warm up at the beginning of class so that we can then move into a modified walking meditation to get some of our inner furnace, our inner heat stoked, and just getting a little bit of the major muscle groups worked and just moving. After that, we'll focus on some balance poses as we work our way down to the mat and eventually having a shavasana, a final resting stage, before we will wake by the 3 bells. So having said that, let's go ahead and meet at the back of the mat. We start class here in our base bridge position as we arrive. I'll go ahead and start. The music, and we'll just settle into the back of the mat. Give yourself a chance to just arrive. Feet are about hips distance apart. You can have a gentle bend to the knees. You can have a deeper one too. Just feel comfortable and notice how the body is arriving. You don't have to change the quality of the breath. We can start to focus on cultivating our yogic breath. Just notice how the air enters the nose and how it exits the nose. Let's bring our left palm to gently rest on our chest, right palm under the belly button, and just give yourself a few breath cycles. The inhales, the pause, the exhale, the pause once more before the next breath cycle begins. You may notice the hand on the chest lifting with each inhale. And then as you slowly exhale, you can help to press out the air with that belly hand. Gently engage the core at the bottom of the exhale, belly button towards the spine. And then we can cultivate the sound of the ocean at the back of the throat. Just opening up the throat, hearing something like an ocean, like a deep sigh. And with that, we can go ahead and release the hands to our side, holding on to the yogic breath throughout our practice. Let's go ahead and shifting into our home base of mountain. Lift the toes, lift the heels. We'll start to bring our breath and body movement together. With the next inhale, start to lengthen through the legs as is comfortable. Feel that energy lifting from the feet, through the body, up through the spine, to the crown of the head and beyond. With the exhale, slowly feel that energy returning to the body, and as it reverses direction back towards the mat, towards the earth, feel a rooting at the feet and a lengthening of your mountain with each iteration. With the next inhale, we'll start to bring the weight towards the toes. Just see that center of gravity shifting slightly till you feel that edge there at the toes. Use the next breath, start to feel the center of gravity moving at the soles of the feet towards the heel of that foot until you can stop. Don't tip over. Use the next couple of breath cycles to just feel that toe to heel alignment and foundation. And then see if you can bring that center of gravity somewhere at the center, above the ankles, nearer to the heels. We're going to reset the mountain once more, inhaling a little taller, crown of the head reaching up towards the ceiling. Exhale, roll the weight towards the outer right edge of your feet. Body is nice and tall, like a stick. Inhale all the way back up. Exhale over to the other side. And make small, slow, explorative moves, just to see where that edge is. See how your body is reacting to it. And then we can go ahead and return to center, back in our mountain, resetting once more if something became different, unbalanced in the transition. Inhaling nice and tall. Feel that energy lifting at the crown of the head, and make small circles in one direction. We're just making small circles until they widen, finding the edge around our feet, that perimeter of the foot in this one direction. Then we can tighten in the circles and return to center, coming back to our mountain position. And feel like water going down the drain when you return. Inhaling, resetting the mountain once more, lifting upwards as we make the same circular motion but in a different direction. Just in the opposite direction. Maybe it's a little choppier this time around. Notice how the ankles feel. Notice how the body responds. And then once you identify that edge, go ahead and tighten in the circles. We'll meet back at center in our mountain once more. Go ahead and lift the toes and the heels. Do anything to kind of reset if you feel like you have residual activation of those muscles from the last pose. And standing in our mountain once more, we'll go ahead and start lubricating the ankles with a little more effort, and the hips perhaps, the knees and the shoulders. So just making the feet a little wider. Let's go ahead and start to make shifting movements with the shoulders, moving the torso from side to side. And when you start to have the torso moving more to one side, lift the ball of the foot, pivoting on the heel. We don't want to move to one side with our foot glued to the ground. We want to enable the ball of the foot to lift and gently pivot on the heel. And we're just getting a little momentum going. Maybe the arms being so nice and relaxed at the sides, might find a gentle tapping by just moving the shoulders and the torso. You might find some lubrication in the hips, maybe in the shoulders, ankles, and then we'll let that energy peter off. Slow down until we come back to a standstill in our mountain. And again, reset the mountain in case something was lost in the transition. Hips distance are our feet, right under the hips bones. So as we're lengthening through the legs, we're moving up towards the shoulders now. So hopefully at this stage, we're lengthening through the legs. If you came into class with a kind of flexion at the hips, like we've been sitting for a long time, what we need to do is slowly start to lengthen upwards. And what we're doing in our warm-up is just giving our body that chance to unfold. So here now, as we move up towards the shoulders, you may think about that energizing movement from the soles of the feet all the way up through the crown of the head once more, as if a string is pulling you up like a marionette. Gently tuck under the tailbone. You can gently press the hips forward. We're hopefully going to get the hips aligned over the knees, over the ankles, and we're just trying to straighten up as we get towards the top. So here at the shoulder warm-up, palms facing forward, arms relaxed at our side. Let's go ahead and inhale. Shoulders lift up. Completely lift, feel that energy lifting at the top of the inhale, and then exhale. Roll the shoulders back and let them melt down. Tuck in those triangular points of your shoulder blades into the mid-back at the bottom of the exhale as you engage your core. We do a total of 4 of those. Inhale up, exhale, roll them back and down. Use your ocean breath, that relaxed yogic breath, to help facilitate the release and bring circulation into those tight areas as we're warming up the shoulder joints. Now, after you're done with your 3 to 4 set, we're going to go ahead and start the next round. Inhaling, shoulders go up. This time, roll them forward on the exhale and down, still tucking them in at the bottom of the exhale. Inhale, shoulders up. Exhale, roll them forward and down. Release down the back. Let the shoulders be nice and relaxed at the bottom of the exhale. I believe I have one more to go here. And then we'll go ahead and again, shake out any residual activation of muscles. Sometimes I have a tendency to grip the mat with my feet. You can always lift the feet, reset the mountain, and coming back to the mountain, inhaling nice and tall, just a little bit longer in our mountain, bringing the chin just slightly in towards the neck, gentle tuck of the chin. Now we're hopefully getting the shoulders to roll back and down more naturally. We're getting a little longer, pelvic tilt under, and a gentle press forward of the pelvis. So we can hopefully bring the alignment of the ear over the shoulder, over the hips, over the knees, over the ankles. Nice and tall energy moving up towards, through the crown of the head, towards the ceiling. Let's go ahead and keeping that lifting motion with the inhale. Exhale, just let the right ear dip towards the right shoulder. Left and right shoulder still in one line. We're just getting length on the left side of the neck with the exhale. Inhaling, still finding length and support from the neck down. Turn the gaze on the exhale if you haven't already. We spend about 4 total breath cycles here, releasing through the left side of the neck, palms facing forward if they're not already. And maybe by your very last exhale, your eyes can rest on the rightmost side of your vision. Let your eyes rest and stretch as much as it can. After that last exhale, go ahead and inhale the eyes, the gaze, the head completely back up, and then exhale left ear towards the left shoulder. Right and left shoulder still in line. Bring the right shoulder down, and if it lifted when you turn the gaze. In a total of 4 breath cycles once you've rested your eyes on the leftmost side. Using the ocean breath, see if you're holding on to any tension not needed to keep this general form. Shoulders in line with one another, hips in line with one another, even distribution of weight at the soles of the feet. And after the very last exhale, go ahead and bring the eyes, the gaze, the head completely back up to center, shining towards the center of the ceiling, so that all you have to do is exhale. Let the eyes roll towards the top of the mat, about 6 feet in front of you. Let it rest there. There's still length to the back of the neck, space underneath the chin, about the size of a tennis ball. As you inhale, it's still a lifting up, but maybe at a slight tilt at the crown of the head towards the ceiling. Shoulders are still open and wide at the tops of the shoulders. Arms are relaxed at the side. Still a total of 4 breath cycles here. Feel length at the back of the neck. And after your very last exhale, go ahead and inhale the eyes back to the center point, the midline, past the midline. Keep rolling the eyes upwards until you can see almost above you. Stop craning the neck at that point. And with the next 4 breath cycles, see if you can bring space to the throat, to the jaw, even to the tongue. See if you can loll out the tongue. In gentle, deep breaths. You can gently roll the jaw from side to side. And after your very last exhale, go ahead and bring the eyes back to center. And when you're there, shake out any residual tension in the feet, in the ankles. You can roll the ankles. You can give yourself a little bounce. You can do anything that feels good to release from that last pose. And then we'll start our walking meditation. We begin with our forward folds. The first one is a very extended fold. So again, in our mountain, feet are hips distance apart. Go ahead and lengthen as is comfortable, but keep a bend to the knee if you need. The bigger the bend, the tighter the legs. Inhaling, we're just reaching downwards with our fingers, extending the arms. And then we're going to extend the arms upwards, still in that inhale, so that at the top of the inhale, perhaps we can even reach upwards with our fingertips. Exhaling, we're engaging the core. We're starting to hinge at the hips and start to fold at the hip line. Nice long back, reaching with the hands to help extend the back. Then walk the hands down if you need, or just let the upper torso float towards your first fold. Your torso will stop where it naturally stops. If your hips are tight, if your legs are tight, make your adjustments. Bend the knees and give your back the time to release. You might be in this almost half lift fold if your hips are tight. Feel that support from the hips down to the heels. If you feel like there's too much support towards the toes, just bring a little weight towards the heels. If it's too much towards the heels, bring it more towards the top of the ankles. But feel as if all points on the soles of the feet are supporting your body, the majority more at the top of the ankles. You can use your hands to support some of the upper body, but we're really trying to release from the tailbone, down the spine, down the neck to the crown of the head. So if you have to, you might be here supporting the back with your forearms on the thighs. If you're able to release more, you might find your hands getting closer to the mat. Total of 5 breath cycles here. So we're going to get ready, hopefully, to come out on a slow roll up. We're engaging the core. Start to press into the feet. Start to firm up the legs. You can walk the hands up the body, slowly walking up the spine, one vertebra at a time, until we stack the neck, head on the neck, palms facing forward. Just let your body catch up to the blood rushing back to the head. One more deep inhale, one more deep exhale, and let's go ahead and fold one more time. Extending the arms downward. Inhale, bring the arms up above. Hands are lifting. And at the top of the inhale, let's go ahead and reach, pressing down on all points of the feet. Exhale, engage the core and start to hinge at the hips. Long back, and you can always walk the hands down to help the back, but we're trying to unfold. And at this point, it's a little shorter forward fold this time. It's more like 3 full breath cycles, so give yourself a little time to unfold here as well. Notice where your balance is, if that's good. And you're just working maybe on the tightness at the back of the legs. Keep the bend a little deeper, or you can even cycle out the leg, bending one knee, straightening it, and then alternately doing it to the other leg. You can also just see if you're holding on to the weight of the head. Gently bobble the head from left to right, forward and back. Maybe even let it dangle like a plumb line. Try to be as relaxed as possible with the upper body. And then as we start to come out, we can come out of the second fold with another slow roll up, or you can come up with a straight back. But either way, we're engaging the core. Start to press into the feet. You can inhale, walk the hands up, slow roll up, or you can inhale with a straight back. Long hands, long straight back, all the way back up to mountain. Hands overhead, palms together, down, heart center. And we'll begin our walking meditation. I'm going to fix my rug really quick, but at the back of the mat, go ahead and bring your hands to heart center. Inhale, have standing weight to the left side of the body, lifting the right foot. Exhale, right foot down. As you shift your weight, slowly lifting the left foot now on the inhale, exhaling that foot down. Inhale, right foot up. Exhale the heel, ball of foot and toes down. And as we make our way to the top of the mat, look down at the fingertips once you arrive at mountain, pressing into the palms. Inhale, watch the fingertips rise. At the top, let's separate the hands. Exhale, engage the core and fold. Bend the knees if you need. Our third fold, you can float on down, you can walk the hands down. And here, we're going to press into the shins, into your thighs, wherever you have contact. Maybe it's the mat. Lengthen through the back. Try to lengthen through the legs as best as you can. You don't have to be straight in the legs. Keep the bend if you need to. And then exhale, lower the torso towards the fold. And then bring the hands, bending the knees if you need. Step a right foot back, a left foot back. You might have to take several steps back. Bring the feet to the back of the mat. Inhale, shoulders over the wrists for our high plank. And we're going to bring the knees down to modify our high plank. Go ahead and untuck the toes. You can always keep them tucked if the tops of the feet, ankles are tight and it just feels more comfortable to have the toes tucked. But if you can, try to open up the tops of the ankles. And you're using the tops of the ankles as well as the shins to help support your modified high plank. Notice where your shoulders are. Mine sometimes are just a little too far forward, so I like to adjust. You can have your wrists at a 90-degree angle if you just bring your shoulders over the wrists. But if your wrists are sensitive, if you've had injury there, maybe you can bring the shoulders a little bit before the wrists so you don't have such a tight 90-degree angle. All right, we're going to tuck our toes, lift the heels, and exhale, bring the hips back towards the back of the mat for our first down dog. Now you can be rolled up here high on your tiptoes on the balls of the feet with the heels lifted. You might find yourself finding the heels lowering with each down dog you practice. But eventually your heels may or may not touch the mat, but we're working towards that. 3 points to consider: the hands and the feet moving downward, long legs, long arms, rooting down at those 2 points, whereas the hips lifting up and making our down dog as much as an upside down V as we can. Might be more of a U. We might have our knees really bent, and that's okay. We're working on lengthening through the back of the legs. We're working on lengthening through the front of the arms. With the next inhale, let's go ahead and look towards the hands. Just roll your eyes. And then exhale, bend the knees if you need. We're going to walk the hands to the back of the mat, to the fold. In here, at the back of the fold, you can always step back if you need to. I am really far back here. Okay, so once you're back at your fold, go ahead and inhale, half lift. Lengthen through the legs best you can in the back. And then exhale, fold again. Bend the knees if you need. We're coming up once more to mountain. Choose your path. Small, slow roll up, engage the core, or with a straight back. Inhaling, hands above the head. Exhale, hands down, heart center. In our second walking meditation, inhale, press into the palms. Lift the right foot, exhale it down. Slow and steady movement, 1 full breath cycle per full step. If you fall out, don't worry about that. Come back in when you can. If you feel wobbly, press into the palms, re-engage the core, and you might just regain your balance at the top of the mat. We'll go ahead and meet in mountain, looking down at the fingertips. Inhale, press into the palms. Watch the fingertips rise, and at the top, release the palms, engage the core, bend the knees if you need, and hinge at the hips. Strong back, float on down, walk the hands down if you need. Come on down to another fold. Inhale, half lift. Lengthen through the legs and the back, best that you can. Exhale, fold once more. Bring the hands to either side of the feet. Step a right leg back, a left leg back, maybe several steps. Come on up to your second high plank, this time full plank, from the heels to the crown of the head. Nice and strong shoulders. Engage your core. Bring the belly button to the spine. One more inhale. One more exhale. Inhale, lift the hips. Exhale, press the hips back to your down dog. See where your heels land this time. Keep a deep bend if you still need to. You can walk your dog. Bend your elbows just slightly. See if they bend back or out to the side. We want them to bend back. So shift at the wrists if you need. One more deep inhale. Look to the hands with your eyes. Engage the core, bend the knees, and we're going to walk the hands, exhaling to the back of the mat, to our fold. Fully exhaled here. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, fold. Just slide back down there. inhale, engage the core, press into the feet, bend the knees if you need. Come on up, your choice. Inhaling all the way back up to mountain. Exhaling, hands down, heart center. And finally down to the side. It's a great time for a little bit of water. And we'll be moving into our standing exercises in just a moment here. Especially with the warmer weather, please stay hydrated. I have been looking at a lot of research on just hydration, especially as we age. It can affect everything from our focus, our energy, our memory, our arthritis. So stay as hydrated as you can, especially in the warmer weather. Alrighty, so here in our first balancing pose, we've been working on just being able to balance on one leg for a while here. That's one of the things that we can do while we're standing in mountain by just simply shifting our weight, as you noticed in our walking meditation. So standing in mountain, hips distance are our feet. Make sure the toes are aligned, one's not past the other. And just give yourself an idea of maybe one tile, floor tile, is about the average hips distance. Alrighty, so standing up nice and tall, feeling like that string at the crown of the head is lifting us all at some point up into the air, so we're nice and long. We'll go ahead and inhale, standing weight to the left leg. It's just a subtle shift of your weight. Your center of gravity just moves to the left leg. Make sure you're not hyperextending that knee. We just want to have the knee stacked on top of the ankle. Once that feels nice and supported, see if you can lift the right heel. Do you still feel that center of gravity on the left side of the body? If you don't, make sure you reestablish that center before moving forward. All we're doing at this point is lifting this right heel, and then we're going to see if we can lift the right foot. Can we hover it? The knee can be bent, but you don't have to. It's just simply hovering that right foot while we're standing on the left side of our body. That center of gravity more on the left. And then let's go ahead and bring that center of gravity to both feet and give yourself a gentle bend to the knees. And if it feels good, go ahead and bounce then, if that's stable. We'll go ahead and move that exercise to the right leg now. So hips distance apart are our feet once more, nice and tall. Feel that center of gravity through the entire body. Gentle tuck under of the tailbone, a gentle press of the hips forward so that everything is in alignment. Ankles under the knees, under the hips, under the shoulders, under the earlobes. Go ahead and inhale, standing weight to the right side of the body. It's just a subtle shift. Once you feel that center there, see if you can lift the left heel without changing that center of gravity now on the right side of the body. If that's so, see if you can lift the sole of the left foot. Just hover it above the floor. Don't need to do much. If you tap down, that's fine. But you're playing with the center of your gravity on the right side of your body now. Notice how that translates into the sole of the right foot. Tap down on the left ball of foot if you need to. And then we'll bring the center back to both feet. Both sides of the body. And once that's regained, go ahead and gently bend both knees. Make sure you feel nice and balanced, and then give yourself a nice little bounce. Alrighty, so those are subtleties that hopefully becomes second nature. So as you shift, if you become off balance, your body will just be able to come into that center of gravity on that unintended side. So next, we're going to start with lifting the foot. So once more in our home, base of mountain, nice and tall. Inhaling, standing weight to the left leg. And then see if you can lift the right heel again. Can you lift the ball of the foot as well and hover that sole? If you're still working on that, just work on getting the balance with slightly lifting the sole of the foot. You can always keep balance, keep cultivating your foundation before you move to something more challenging. If you can balance on the one foot, you can bend the knee and see if you can lift the right foot. And the higher you lift it, the more challenging it is. So again, incremental steps. Maybe it's just you hovering the sole of the foot. Maybe it's you bending the knee. Maybe it's bringing the knee to the same level as the hip. All right, and then we're going to bring that foot down, slowly regain the center between both feet. Balance the center of gravity with both sides of the body. Once that's established again, give yourself a bounce, a gentle bend of the knees, and then a bounce, maybe a little more, once you've established that reconnection. Now, we've been working without releasing very much, so see if you need that release. We were standing on the left leg, so go to the opposite leg. Give yourself a little bit of just stability there so you can kick that left leg forward. Just see if you've got residual activation. I typically do. Go to the left, same side as that leg before you cross the midline, before you go over. And you'll notice at that crossing whether or not your glute is still engaged on that standing leg that was working so hard. Alrighty. We'll move on over to the other side one last time. And as we have the left leg here, now we're going to bring standing weight to the right leg. So in our mountain, nice and tall. Inhaling standing weight to the right side now. Have you got that center of gravity on the right side of your body? Go ahead and lift the left heel then. Is that stability still there? Can you balance on that side by lifting, hovering the left sole of the foot? If not, stay here and cultivate that sense. You might have to tap down with the ball of the foot, but see if you can stay here and cultivate your sense of balance on the right side of the body. If you're doing really well and you want to challenge yourself, bend the knee. See if you can lift the entire foot with a bent knee. See if you can hold your breath at your stage for 3 to 5 breath cycles. If you fall out, that's okay. Come back in. Engaged core, slow Ujjayi breath. And when you're done, go ahead and slowly bring that left foot back. Regain your balance between both sides of the feet, both sides of the body. Once you've reconnected that, go ahead and bend both knees. If that feels good, give yourself a bounce. See if that helps you to release. And if you really want to do some more releasing, bring some weight to the opposite leg. Let's release the right leg's still activated muscles by kicking forward on the right side. Kick forward with that right leg. Kick out to the right with the right leg. A few times before we cross the midline. I am really tight there, so I'm not really moving too far to the midline, over the midline. Just things to notice. Alrighty, and as we're there, and you get a sense of your balance a little more, now we're gonna move into our chair position. So once more, feet are hips distance apart. I'm moving to the side so that you get a side perspective. But we want that center of gravity once more. This time pronounced not on the entire sole of one foot, but at the heels of both feet, near to the tops of the ankles, near to the heels. So let's go ahead and stand in our mountain, nice and tall. Inhale, arms go up. They can be up at a tangent or they can be directly above us, whichever is easiest for you. Exhale, just bend the knees, engage the core until you feel your glutes and your quads engage. Now, as you do so, it may not have taken much for you to feel that engagement, and that's your chair. The deeper you bend your knees, the more you're engaging all of those hip flexors, the muscle groups needed as you lift up from the chair and as you lower down to a chair. So just notice how that is feeling in the body. You can always lower the hands too if your arms are tired. But we want to feel as if you've got that good stability there. Lift up the toes, see if the center of gravity changed. If it didn't, you've got a good sense of your center. With the next inhale, we're gonna go ahead and inhale, straighten the legs. Just feel lifted, as if that crown of the head string is just lifting you upright. And then go ahead and relax in your mountain. Lift the feet, reset the mountain. We'll go into chair once more. And this time, we will roll up to the toes. You don't have to if you don't want to. You can use the block if you know that that's a part of your practice to help you strengthen the ankles, the arches, the bones in the feet. You can always use a block to help. Now, as we come into our second rendition of chair, standing in our mountain, inhaling the arms up. Exhale, bend the knees. Maybe more of a challenge is just going a little deeper in your squat, sort of in this chair. But again, we're noticing where that center of gravity is. More here, like the hips right over the ankles. And hopefully, if you have this arch to the back, if there's a deep arch, that's going to compress a lot. We want to tuck under the tailbone, and that way you feel more stability of the center right here at the hips going over the heels, and the lower back is protected. Your lumbar should be a little curved out if you're feeling too much pressure there. And once more, you can keep the hands at the hips to help feel that center. And with the next inhale, let's go ahead and roll to the balls of the feet and lift the heels if you want to challenge yourself. If not, just stay where you are and cultivate your chair, your sense of gravity. And if you fall out, that's okay. We're balancing, plus we're really engaging our core, our thighs, our glutes, all of those hip flexor muscles, the power muscles needed to run, to jump. Alrighty, with the next inhale, let's go ahead and lift up, and exhale, lower the feet. Release the hands, and give yourself a moment in your standing mountain. Alrighty, and we'll come down to the mat. We've got several ways to come down to the mat. If you have a favorite way, please find yourself down towards your knees. We're going to come down to a squat for me. And as you come down, we will need some support perhaps for our hips. We're going to be seated in a moment. So as we come down to the knees, we have an opportunity to just walk on our hands and knees to where we need to go. So we can drop our hips onto a blanket, onto a block. If our hips are really tight, having the hips elevated above the knees is always helpful. We are making our way down to the floor. So if you can bring your feet out in front of you, we'll meet in staff position. And again, I'm going to turn to the side so you can just have a side view of how the hips might be elevated above the knee level to help any tightness in the knees, in the hips. So here, just slightly elevated. My sits bones are right at the edge of my blanket. I don't want to sit on my tailbone. That causes, if you can see, a curving of the back. The pelvis tilts back and my tailbone is tucked under. I'm sitting on my tailbone, so my whole back is just curving because of that. So we want to bring the tops of the pelvic bowl forward. We want to sit up as tall as we can, and we do that by bringing the tilt of the pelvic forward at the top of these ridges here, the hip ridges. You want to bring that up and forward, and you'll feel as if you have a tail sticking out, that you're not sitting on the tail, but it's actually kind of tilting back as the top of your pelvis bowl is tilting forward. Now here you might find some hyper extension of the knees, so that's a good time to either place a block that's thin or maybe a rolled blanket under there. The higher up you are with your hips, the more your knees might need support as well. But eventually, we might find our way to being on the mat, sitting on our sits bones. That's like the bottom of your pelvis. So those little bony protrusions there, and you can just rock from side to side. it gives you an idea of where those points are. And then kind of rock back, teeter back and forth until you find center, or what feels like center. Then you can also start to lift up and back the pelvic bowl. Now, if you have arthritic hips, if that is painful for you, move slowly. You want to feel energized upwards. We don't want to grind into our pelvic bowl. So engaging the core, lifting upwards, even using the hands if you need to kind of find that upwards position of the pelvic bowl. And then the legs. Once we have our foundation of the sits bones and our knees are not hyperextended and they're nice and supported, just make sure your rotation of the leg is not where your legs are falling out. And that's indicative of the toes rolling outwards, the knees rolling out. See if the toes and the knees can be inward rolling so that they point up towards the ceiling. That's all we're looking for. And then just relax. Then you don't have to actively hold this position other than slightly engaging the muscles needed for this general form. Now here in our staff position, we're going to lean back a little bit and start to bring a bend to the left knee. If you can do it without the use of your hands, great. We're just going to bring it closer towards the torso and then start to externally rotate it the closer our foot gets towards our groin. We're bringing the sole of the left foot in towards the inner right leg. And I'm going to turn around actually to hopefully give you a better perspective. But we're bringing an external rotation to the left leg, or whichever leg you have. We've got that hip externally rotated so that we can draw the leg upward. So we're kind of like in a half butterfly, half staff position. Now if your hip is really tight, you'll do a number of things. Your knee will be lifted. You may need to lean back. So those are the things we're going to play with. Give yourself some time. If this is a position that you're not used to, you're probably really stiff from the habitual posturing of not being down on the floor. So with wider hips, with more flexible hip openings, we're going to have the knee and the hip becoming more of a flattened position relative to the floor. So until we get there, we may need a block to help support this knee. We do want to focus on sitting on those sits bones best that we can. But if our hips are really tight, don't force that. We're just going to have to modify until we can get there. And eventually, we're just hoping to lift up, feeling nice and long in our torso, from the tailbone all the way up through the crown of the head. Notice where the orientation of your hands are, if they're at your side, helping to support the torso in an upright position. But eventually, you might just be sitting upright on your own, and your hands can be either at the side or in your lap, and you're using your core muscles to feel that lengthening upwards of the torso. And at the same time, releasing, relaxing anything in the left hip, the left leg, the right leg. If it doesn't have to be activated, let it go in the legs. We're trying to open up through the hips, through the hamstrings, in this half butterfly, half staff position. And just getting to this point, we've probably taken our 3 to 5 breath cycles to get to our first edge. After you're comfortable, if you're able to hold your pose in a comfortable, steady manner, at this point we can breathe our 3 to 5 more breath cycles. Slow, steady yogic breaths. Inhaling, imagine the energy entering the body fully, reaching the toes, reaching the fingers, reaching the crown of the head, radiating in all points within the body. And as you begin the exhale, slowly drawing out any tension, any soreness, achiness with each breath, with each exhale. And then you might find that the body begins to release with the help of gravity as well as just the space given to relax. Then you might find that you were holding on to parts of the body that didn't need to be held on to. Perhaps the toes might start to relax. Perhaps the knee, the hip might open up just a millimeter more. And at the last exhale, let's go ahead and prepare to come out. But if you had a hard time coming in, you're going to lean back with tight hips. You're going to lean back just slightly so you can help bring the left knee back up to center. And as this left knee is coming back up, as you're internally rotating the hip, the leg is lengthening downward. So you can slide that leg hopefully downward. And you can always use the hands to help. But eventually we're just lengthening through the leg. And if it feels good, then go ahead and make your residual release, the release of any residual activation of muscles. Tap out the knee, gently wiggle the toe, roll the leg from side to side just slightly. Make sure that it's feeling good and is back in place. We'll go ahead and put that back in, and then we'll move to the other leg. It's my right leg, so inhaling, starting to lean back, and bringing a bend to the right knee as you start to draw the sole of the right foot towards the inner left leg. Notice how that translates in the knee, in the hip. You may not go very far. You might be just at the calf, you might be at the ankle. You might have a high lifted knee. What you're doing is just helping the body to open up, finding that opening at the sits bones, and then drawing the leg into that butterfly, half butterfly position as is available for you. So if you're not able to bring this knee down and the foot closer to this left leg, you're there, and that's your edge. From there, breathe. It's a total of about 3 to 5 breath cycles from that edge that you find. And just notice how the breath carries through the body. By that last breath, maybe the hip opened just slightly more. We'll go ahead after the last exhale. Go ahead and inhale. Bring the hands back up. Help bring the knee back up to center, internally rotating the right hip or that leg's hip as you bring the sole of the foot back and the leg lengthening down. And then go ahead. Use your movements and counter what we did before by simply tapping out the knee, wiggling the toes, and just giving a slight rotation inward and outward, just rolling that right leg. And then bringing both sits bones once more. Feeling a little taller perhaps in our staff from the hips all the way up to the crown of the head. Now we're going to bring both soles of the feet together. And in our butterfly, we may end up only having the soles of the feet touch with the butterfly legs more of a diamond shape. That seems to be the case for me. In our butterfly, if your feet are closer towards the groin, then hopefully the knees are falling more towards the outer edges here into more of a traditional butterfly. You can always hold on to the ankles. Inhale, feel long in the torso. I'm holding on to my calves. But at this point, we're just breathing in through the nose, holding it, and then exhaling through the nose. Like deep yogic breath. Through the nose, bringing the breath to help facilitate release, and hopefully you'll find the opening in the hips just a fraction wider. And after your very last breath cycle, we'll go ahead and start to bring the torso back up. Bring the hands to either side of the knees. Help to lift them up. You can lean back at this point if you need. Bring the soles of the feet downward as the knees come back to center, and you lengthen through the legs, both legs. My butterfly was kind of short. If you had a deep butterfly, make sure you give yourself a good amount of time as you're coming out of a pretty fragile, in a fragile state from a pretty deep pose. And give yourself any movement. Maybe it's rolling of the ankles. Maybe it's a widening of the toes. And then we'll make our way down to the mat. So if you notice today we didn't get on our belly, so you can always just roll on the belly and then roll on your back if you like, or just meet in Shavasana on the back. For the last pose, it's not really much that we're doing here, but allowing the body to respond to today's practice. I'm going to show you how on the back you can just hopefully relax. We didn't go on the belly, so if you're just going directly into your Shavasana, you might find that you're still tented at the hips. So maybe the knees are lifted, the calves are not on the mat. You need to give yourself just a little bit of time to release. Now, if you have a deep curve to the lower back, it might be good to have a blanket underneath that curve. And that might help if you have that lower back tension, even when you're laying down. Something about having that blanket right there at the small of the back might help. And again, we're extending through the legs. So as you find that transition, it may just take a little while. Go ahead, if your calves are still lifted at this point, you can inhale, the arms above the head. Have a nice overhead arm stretch. You can point the toes, flex the feet. You can wiggle the fingers once more, extend through the heels when you flex your feet, and then just relax. Bring the arms back down to the side, and your legs are going to be where they're going to be. And at this point, palms facing up, and a gentle closing of the eyes, or altogether closing of the eyes. For the next 5 minutes, allow the body to respond to today's practice. I'll be sitting upright to mind the time as you enjoy Shavasana and hear the 3 bells to awaken. bringing the mind and the body back together again. Notice how the air enters the nostrils, how it exits the nostrils. As you reawaken, connecting to the body vessel once more, wiggle the fingers, toes, rock from side to side, bringing yourself back to the present, back to the body. And then we'll make our way up to an upright seated position. You can roll to one side, fetal position, use your forearm and hands to help bring you back up to an upright seated position. Finding your way back up, you can meet in an easy seated, one leg out in front of the other sort of position, or you can have staff where your legs are extended out in front of you. We want to find ourselves in a comfortable seated upright position. So maybe again, being lifted at the hips above the knees, just higher, not extending the back of the knees too much. So just keeping that elevation at the hips so that you can tilt the pelvic bowl forward and sit upright. Have a nice tall spine. We'll end our class with our alternate nostril breathing exercise. Bringing the right hand into our chin mudra. That's just the hand position of the index to the thumb. Rest that hand on the left thigh. Right hand in our Vishnu mudra. 2 fingers on the mount of the thumb. We will be closing the right nostril with the right thumb, left nostril with the ring finger tip. If you can't hold that Vishnu position, go ahead and just use the 2 on the brow line, using the thumb and ring finger knuckle to close the nostrils accordingly. All right, so inhaling. Let's go ahead and begin. Close the right nostril, exhale through the left. Fully engaging the core at the bottom of that exhale. Lift the pelvic floor. Inhale. Close. Exhale through the right. Inhale through the right. Close. Exhale through the left. Inhale through the left. Close. Exhale through the right. Inhale through the right. Close. Exhale through the left. Inhale through the left. Close. Exhale through the right. Inhale through the right. Close. Exhale through the left. Inhale through the left. Close. Exhale through the right. Last round. Inhale through the right. Close. Exhale through the left. Inhale through the left. Release the hand. Release both mudras and allow the breath to return to its natural state. All right, bringing hands to heart center. Thank you so much for joining us here at the community room of the ACC for Gentle Yoga at noontime. I hope you have a wonderful day. Namaste. Thank you.